Good evening to all and thanks. In the last weeks, I did not manage anymore to write before prepare the text of the conference from drafts, notice, and completely, as usual, being again and again stopped and practically obliged to modify or to replace the subject and to add another new, finding out no proof of country betrayal, no dangers for the existence and for the national safety of Japan, new state coups, many of them created, hidden through cunning manipulation and corruption, new Japanese traitor or even old revealed now, working at high level in the name of Japan for its destruction, working hidden and in other countries ruled by the occult gang and doing betrayal against Japan and her and in Japan with the Japanese traitor from abroad, accomplice and working hand in hand to deliver Japan to Russia and China secured to the whole occult gang without borders now. So, again betrayal, again state cup of deception. I will show you now the baby and after we'll speak about it. Just a moment. Antonio Alexandrovna, as usual, happy to see you and after to watch the register. But the occult is not happy to see her alive, as one of their servants showed recently angry. Is she still alive? Yes. Unfortunately for them, with the God's mercy and help, she is still alive. But since the new bloody theater of Israel made by the synagogue of Satan against Israel, against Palestinian people, against Japan, and against the whole mankind, started, the synagogue of Satan became extremely pathetic against her for stopping the telling of truth and used all the occult group and their cunning servants, disciple of the Ram, trying to kill her or to kidnap her with stage to kill her, to be able to deceive you again and again, not to start. Just a moment, please. I still want my gift. A world of fakes, a world of lies. That week, the devilish center global vassal, named Haydn himself like that, kidnapped her mother and carried her in Russia, closed in a car, and there opened the gas inside the car to explode the car. But such one speaks, fooling people about God and faith, and blasphemed through hidden deeds, highly paraskeva. Gandhi said, man is the son of his action. As his friends, the devilish vassal to Naruhito, God's son of Putin, whom he helped to escape from the police sent by Emperor Akihito after he killed Empress Michiko and all Japanese Yong, coming in that country where he was, where is that devilish global vessel? And there he gave him to run in Serbia the charter of the church. No comment. To escape from the police sent by Emperor Akihito to stop the crimes. Only what said Saint Ignatius Brancianino, such ones serve Satan under the guise of a hypocritical service to God. And his subordinate hierarch, from border with Republic Moldova, the confessor of Naruhito, is easily to explain. It's like him exactly. And you know, a zealous disciple of the Ram, you know the Japanese wisdom. When you don't know one's character, look at his friends. Or, as Lord Christ said, look at their fruits, at their deeds. But in the case of such ones, the deeds are hidden, are secret. But don't forget the word of Lord. There is nothing secret that will not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad. Luke 8:17. So, her mother was kidnapped and carried forcibly in Russia, as my late husband died in March, destroyed by Naruhito's gang and killed. Friend was too, and realized a little. Such ones, such in sheep's clothing, Matthew 15, Bible, this gazing hierarch wrote me a stroll by entering a stroll on our account, sending me message instead my daughter, and trying to blackmail me to meet him in a city, Yash, where are the relics of Holy Paraskeva. Of course, I ignore him, but as Saint Grigore the theologian said, nothing is more pathetic than talking about God standing apart from God. Disgusting is he, as Troll spoke about God, calling me like sister, saying God be with your brotherhood, and writing what he've done to her. I'm not sister with such one. I'm a sinner, but servant to God. His God is another, is the devil. And although he fooled people, claiming something else, his God is the devil. And my God, whose servant I am, sinner as I am, say that the devil could had nothing in me, in Lord. John 14:13. And also John 15:12-20. The servant is not greater than his Lord. Finish the quote. And the hidden Lord of such ones is the devil, himself claims as being central global vassal. And his hidden deeds show that he deserves his self-calling. So I have not fellowship, sinner as I am, I have not fellowship with his hidden God, being not sister with a devilish vassal. But remember and read the Psalm 2 of David, symbol of Jews, defied by the synagogue of Satan of their occult group. Read as example how defied Psalm 106 KJV 105 other version 37:14, and the same Psalm 106, 105, 19 and next. So here I quote Psalm 2 and next, David. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heaven shall know. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Finish the quote. So, God, most holy Theotokos, and the saints foiled his plans to kill the baby and his mother, although the baby was since then physically attacked twice only of a street, and not only physically, but they planned to kill her mother and to take the baby forcibly with corrupted officials, disciples of the Ram, to make disappear and kill her too, pretexting to be given to that vassal with the pretext that he wants to help her from the charge because I act bad toward her. Disgusting and pathetic. And it seems that in the last time, my occupation during the conference is to try to adapt to drafts not to be forgotten, to be shown the new information associated with the notes on various papers with the free speaking, for resulting a conference which include all the last betrayal, all the necessary information for that week. And that's why my last conference become longer. I apologize for that. But I struggle to offer you as possible, although informal in the last moment in many situations, information about hidden misery done cunning often in the last moment against Japan. Yes, it's hard for me to make ready a conference in such conditions in the last moment, but I think it's more hard for Japan, more dangerous for Japan and for you all to be exposed and endangered like that, especially through cunning, hidden betrayal and deception. And if I would not give the necessary information, I would feel guilty knowing and not telling, taking account to many traps, Torapu, Rasu, sent to Japan, and how dangerous are them for the existence, even the existence of Japan. I really pray to God, seeing how huge became the betrayal after Empress Michiko was killed, and more cunning and multiplying more and more, and the deception too. I ask God for light to show me if Japan still has a chance to survive with so many betrayal and deception in it. And if I ask God if He still wants me to help to keep the peace, the freedom of Japan, and the human rights of the people, as Empress Michiko and also Emperor Akihito wanted, to help me to do it, and if not, to let me know. Until now, I wasn't informed somehow about the contrary. So let's start with the quote. It means God still wants to help Japan. Let's start with the quotes and proverbs related to the issue I will expand, and after the background information and the details. Again, Gene Sharp, I insist. It's a nonsense assumption that you can get rid of terrorism with war. Terrorism is taking the lives of innocent people to gain your objective. War is basically the same thing on a larger scale. Osho, life begins where fear ends. Freedom does not mean laziness and carelessness. Freedom is responsibility. If you don't take responsibility, someone else will do it for you. That's how you become a slave. And on the other hand, the state of affairs is about to become increasingly bitter. And it seems that all sorts of blind people have bombs in their hands and throw them at random. And thinking is dangerous. Society wants robots that simply do whatever they are told, that cannot say no, something impossible for them. It was Osho. And now, Nikolai Steinhardt, doctor in constitutional law and priest at Origin Jew. Quote, a collection of quotes from him. Christ is not the God of disorder and masks. The triad of Christs, faith, freedom, love. Nowhere and never did Christ ask us to be fools. He calls us to be kind, gentle, honest, humble in heart, but not stupid. And tyranny do not forbid the telling of the truth, but only of some, or rather a certain one, of the one who has the respective tyranny. And it is not the political or economic system that is decisive, but the tone of relationship between people. If there is goodwill or threatening, the rest doesn't matter. It was Nikolai Steinhardt. Pope John Paul II. Social justice cannot be obtained through violence. Violence kills what it should create. Violence and arms can never resolve the problems of man. Mother Teresa, the saint from Calcutta. When I was crossing into Gaza, I was asked at the checkpoints whether I was carrying any weapons. I replied, "Oh yes, my prayer books." And if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong each other. It was Mother Saint Teresa from Calcutta. Shakespeare, the devil also uses the scripture when he wants to achieve his goal. Montesquieu, there is no greater tyranny than that which takes place under the shield of the law and in the name of the justice. Molière, hypocrisy is a privileged vice that stops with its hand everyone's mouth and enjoys not disturbed a sovereign impunity. Japanese proverbs. Chasing a deer, you don't see the mountains. The ones who for real wants to rise will find a way to build a ladder. A hungry tiger is not a sign to guard a pig. Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. How was one to treat alike insulting, insolent and corrupt officials, co-worker of yesterday, meaningless opposition, and men who had always been good to one? And what does it matter to the dead, the orphans, and the homeless whether the mad destruction is wrought under the name of totalitarianism or in the holy name of liberty or democracy? Confucius, don't be ashamed of your mistakes, turning them into murder. And now, allow me please to focus your attention to the following issues. 1. The misery betrayal with statescup attempts done by devilish vassals of the occult with Japanese traitor to fool you by using humanoid robots with the image of Empress Michiko and Emperor Akihito at 3 years since their death, and using also the deception with your traitor former leader. As usual, my former traitor's husband, who in the short time he ruled almost destroyed Japan, things becoming worse after he killed Empress Michiko and Aiko. And through killing Aiko, Emperor Akihito died too by heart attack. Second issue, the hypocrite concern about the cruelty against some people done by or in the name of Hamas. In the new calculated war calculated by the occult group, organized by the occult gang through Benjamin Netanyahu and his synagogue of Satan, whose all and continuous penal deeds wanted to be hidden and started to be occurred by the people and wanted to be continued through war, diversion, deception, and dictatorship over and against Israel. First of all against Israel, after against Palestinian people, against Japan, against innocent people, and against more innocent children and babies than the ones shown in photos, who real or not, killed by Hamas or sacrificed in rituals of disciple of the Ram, as pretext for justifying new new murder in war, for justifying the war, and against the whole mankind through such war. 3. The cooperation between all the rulers belonging to occult group in supporting the calculated wars, the calculated disasters, or creating collective emotion and diversion, for giving restriction, hidden, and law issue in personal interest of the group, which affect the human rights of the people, including in countries themselves claimed as being free but deceived and ruled through deception, totally controlled by the occult gang, who even at elections passed the baton one another in many countries of the world, being such a situation. 4. The extremely noxious, harmful role of religious manipulation done by the occult group, through religious mob and devilish vassals infiltrated among the clergymen, any religion, and also by the Pharisee politicians belonging to a cult, considering that a trend nowadays, and hidden disciples of the Ram, claiming public to serve God. And here also the necessity to keep self-control through a huge analysis. As Lincoln said, never encourage deception and falsehood, even if you have a bad memory. And through watching and prayers, because as the Bible asks that, Lord Himself, because the deepfakes and deceptions in the world done by the occult have no limits anymore and drive the mankind, fooled and manipulate directly to the starting of the global war, who may change the world in a huge cenotaph, and as survivors to remain only the humanoid robots based on AI created by the occult for deceiving the mankind, as in the horror movies, and also the evil spirits whom the occult group serve until the judgment. So, let's start. Again, the occult group tried to destroy Japan. I think and I hope that none of you could believe that the humanoid robots based on AI with the image of Emperors Akihito and Michiko at 3 years since Empress Michiko was killed by Naruhito and Emperor Akihito died in a heart attack, finding out that Aiko was killed too, while he searched her airplane crashed by Naruhito near Romania in the Black Sea. And they wanted through betrayal and deception to set up dictatorship over Japan, dictatorship of disciples of the Ram, so that to assert easy in a moment Japan to Russia's occult and China's occult, taking account that the colleagues are now hand in hand all together. Oh, if people would be so united in good deeds, sincere faith and wish of peace and freedom as the occult is united in evil, and being united in evil spread hatred among you to be controlled and isolated under the principle divide of the Ram, divide et impera, used by disciple of the Ram, and by use the practice of devilish vassal Naruhito and his image, they tried to set up the destruction of Japan for being totally under the dictatorship of disciple of the Ram and serving it to Russia and China, having as helper and sent also in the name of Japan, like as you, the people of Japan, are good to be mocked, went 3 times at elections in vain, since such one met Putin's impersonator in Republic Moldova to deliver Japan on tweet, the omnipresent devilish traitor Yoko Kamikawa. You went in vain at election. Again, I look at that. Here is the sign also of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I am Strategic Counsellor of the Chrysanthemum Throne. Who is Ministry of Foreign Affairs? An employee of Putin's impersonator, or of Netanyahu, who threatened Emperor Akihito that he with Putin will destroy Japan? God saved Emperor Akihito then by a heart attack, did also, although he was unconscious and the doctors ordered by Naruhito refused to treat him, but before 3 years, when he searched for Aiko in Black Sea, crushed by Naruhito after he killed Empress Michiko, his heart gave out again, and he stopped to fight and died. The occult group tried to throw Japan in war, according to pathetic wish of Netanyahu to destroy Japan, and through Japan with his synagogue of Satan to destroy the mankind in the global war, starting not only the annexion of Japan, but endangering the whole mankind. And at Cairo, where was a so-called summit organized deceitful by the occult concerning the calculated war of Netanyahu against Israel, I insist first of all against Israel, against Palestinian people, against the mankind, went there, in which quality I don't know, Yoko Kamikawa. 3 times of election concerning that, since he met with other traitors in Moldova Republic to deliver Japan there to the occult impersonator of Putin. If you remember, before 3 times of election, speaking about that one, I give you then a quote from the Japanese wisdom: a pig used to dirt turned his nose up to rice. And I explained to you that although totally I assure you what is on that, he refused totally to cooperate with me, and I understood exactly why, because he could not cooperate at all with me to the betrayal, as neither Naruhito could not neither cooperate with me in that, nor even to oblige me to do that as well, to betray with him, because finding out all the miseries and his wish not to stop the evil, I annulled the marriage at my only own request, although he, in his paranoia he claimed, although I was even remarried after that, he claimed that I am his wife, not others. The evil spirit whom he served made him to reach such a state, and finally, doing betrayal and wanting to destroy Japan, he managed to destroy with Ryonjil, my late husband. in his pathetic wish to destroy Japan through my late husband. But God did not allow that, neither Japan to be destroyed, and even destroyed my late husband, who was saved eternally. Disgusting is that the occult tried to take you all as fool, although you saw Emperor Akihito dead and his grave profaned by themselves, and even miracles happened there because, as his friend Father Vasile, my confessor, warned him, Emperor Akihito, even blackmailed with the insemination by the occult, had a divine mission to struggle to protect Japan, and God made with him and through him and miracles. I explained it you in previous conference. And although some of you know directly what happened with the Chinese mob who profaned his grave and killed his loved dolphins, and all that was did through a divine miracle. But disgusting is, after all that, they still tried, after all those years, to use a robot so many times after his death, as they used another robot with his face then, immediately after he died, working with the Russian occult, the angels of the devil, and making Samurai Joromaru to think that Emperor Akihito means the robot, considered by him, not knowing the Emperor Akihito died, become traitor. Even Joromaru was fooled for a moment. But it was the humanoid robots, the Emperor who did betrayal commanded by the occult group with his face. Emperor Akihito was already dead, near Mangalia, near Romania, searching Aiko and finding out she was killed as Empress Michiko before too. And again, disgusting and about Empress Michiko with that robot. All Japan knew how he was cutted by Naruhito since 3 years, exactly in October. And there are interceptions, witness, registers, footage, and they still try to fool you. And again, the evil spirits made them to think nonsense, because Empress Michiko dying for Japan and sincere for faithful for your rights is in heaven. And exactly the second day after she was killed, she sued and asked me to be made religious services for her 40 days in other country, because Naruhito will forbid to be done that in Japan. And yes, it was done. All those days she asked. But exactly the occult sent some North Korean mob to profanate her grave with the relics of her, found still not sunk completely in the hole, in the ocean water. And the same now try to take you as fool, as you would be alive, senseless and pathetic and ridiculous. They have no limits anymore in their pathetism and deceptions. Ridiculous. And after 3 times of elections, after I spoke public in conference as official about him, I mean about the traitor Yoko Kamikawa and about his dismissal, were trying to make fake acts using him in the name of Japan, to plunder Japan's public money through fake or the occult group, and even more to make a war provoke, the provoking wars made by making a fake without any quality in the name of Japan, for plundering public wealth and provoking to be thrown Japan in war, to fake that Japan helped and engaged to help Ukraine. I should always, I made even hoarse voice speaking as official to the throne of Japan, charged with the strategy of the country, that Japan has nothing in common with the calculated, bloody theater done by Putin and Zelensky in deal against their own countries and against the mankind, and also nothing in common neither with the bloody theater against Israel made by itself through Netanyahu deceived Israel, not Netanyahu. Netanyahu being calculated. I reveal even some of the reasons, so-called reasons, of their bloody, calculated deals in previous conference, and I pointed out many times, especially in the case of Ukraine, that but now starting that with Israel is valid too, that anyone who support, promote, even through words, had to be maintained or entertained those calculated bloody theater. At the beginning I speak about Ukraine and Russian full common people, but now I speak and about Israel, and against mankind through the consequence I explained is accomplice anyone who support or help or promote that, is accomplice to all that bloody theater, is accomplice to all the crimes, all the thefts, all the house done in those calculated wars. It accomplished to plundering all countries with that pretext, to house at all borders, and Japan is not such an accomplice. Disgusting is that some of the intelligence knew before about all those theaters calculated, as they knew in United States and in September 2001 about such terrorist attack, so-called, sent by the occult attack in United States at the request of their colleague who needed for his business to be passed a law using the collective emotion for forcing that, and also for restricting human rights for the occulting their benefits. And some of the intelligence knew and about the same theater reloaded, this time applied by their colleague Netanyahu from the synagogue of Satan. I quote the term of Revelation 2:9, against Israel, but saying he would be Jew, defying David and killing a lot of babies, not only hidden as disciple of the Ram, but also in war. Protesting, he fight against terrorism by showing photos, hypocrites, with killed babies, but killing more babies, not only Arabs who are babies too, ignored by him, and having too right to live, but also babies of Jews and of any nation in war, killing in war even more children and killing also their parents, even more babies any nation than in their divine rituals as disciple of the Ram, and say they are Jews. David sacrificed rams to God and said clear, Psalm 106 KJV 105 other version, that God is angry for killing by someone children and for making human sacrifice. Psalm 106, 37, 14, 105 other versions, and also in the same Psalm 106, 105 at 19, David showed that God is angry also for worshipping the ox or the ram, the same thing, the molten image of the devil. And himself, David sacrificed rams to God. Look Psalm 66, KJV, 65 other version. Sacrifice rams to God as thanksgiving and for being forgiven his sins. And the synagogue of Satan with Netanyahu and with the masked lover of children and all of them who fooled the Jews, although David sacrificed rams to God, they sacrificed the creation of God to the ram, being disciples of the ram, the molten image of the devil. And one through killing in war more children, any nation, civilians, their parents, elders, sick, through dropping bombs on hospitals and on churches, to gather hatred of all Arab nations against Israel, against the old common people, Jew. If some Arab watched me now, I recommend them not to hate the common people, not to hate the Jews. They are fooled and all is organized against the Jew, including for trying to set up the dictatorship over justice of Netanyahu with his many penal files. So don't hate the Jews. The good faith Jews are loved by God and they love God, and the Arabs and the Jews had the same creator who gave the Decalogue. Don't hate the Jews, hate the devil and fight against his servants of the occult, because they corrupted and infiltrated traitors and in Israel to act against it, and among Arab to work against themselves in the services of synagogue of Satan, of the occult group. Don't hate Jews, better advise them to wake up and to stop the war made at the request of a corruptor who acts against them, against the mankind, and for the occult fooling them and using them as cannon fodder. As his mascot colleague from the family of Synagogue of Satan, claimed to be lover of children, but he wants to kill more children than usually in their rituals with human sacrifice to the ram, wants to kill more children in war, to let homeless to kill their parents, and of course attacking churches, civilian places, hospitals, exactly as the devilish central vessels pretend, as he made covenant with the disciples of the Ram to help babies through church and corrupt officials to be taken forcibly, babies with that pretext from relatives or from parents who staged, but in reality they don't want to help them, but they took them for sacrifice to the Ram, saying they want to help without to be asked that. And after deleting them from the digital evidence, exactly like that, Netanyahu and the masked lover of children from the same synagogue of Satan who insert chips in human brains pretend they took care about children and show image of killed babies for justifying to be killed even more babies in war, any nation, and to gather hatred and war against Israel of the whole Arab world, because they want all of them the global war and dictatorship of the occult over the survivor, if any. And yes, I am in charge to speak all that and to ask also not be involved Japan in those miseries and allied with none of them, including because Netanyahu threatened directly Emperor Akihito, whom now they try to deceive you at 3 years since he died, that he will alive. Netanyahu, before to die, Emperor Akihito threatened him that he will destroy Japan with Putin, and I myself, with the help of Empress Michiko and a few good faith samurai knowing to place to insert infusions, threatened Emperor Akihito and then survived with the help of God through a miracle. The doctors wanted to declare him dead and refused ordered by Naruhito to treat him, considering him dead. But I recommend then the treatment, and the infusions was inserted by the samurai, and he was watched by Empress Michiko. Finally, he was healed exactly by a miracle of God to show their light, and he lived until Aiko was killed, and before was killed Empress Michiko, and God allowed him to survive because he had ambitions then to try to stop Naruhito to do the crimes, including sending police abroad after him and watching to be revealed all their crimes. And Emperor Akihito even tried to stop him by crushing a helicopter given by traitors at Chernobyl. But he was helped, Naruhito was helped by his godfather Putin coming there and taking him, and by the religious mobs, including he was helped when he had police after him by the devilish Central Global Vessel who gave him after the charter of the church to escape from police when he did the crimes. And such one who people speaking about God. And Naruhito, after killing Empress Michiko and the Yong, went to Moscow, celebrate that with Putin and Kirill, the crimes, and after went at cathedral to the fest of Holy Paraskiva to show what pious are done. To come back to the Holocaust and his zealous pawn Netanyahu who threatened Japan with Putin, to know that the intelligence, as usual, were infiltrated by the occult with traitors, not to stop and prevent what happened, as they did in the United States in 2001, or as in the deal between Putin and Zelensky, they now too, born of the same occult with the bloody theater against Ukraine, Russia and the whole mankind through plundering and creating chaos at border, and exactly as the intelligence from Korea knows the truth and know for long, including concerning who ruled both Korean countries for real the same occult, but for all the people, either through deep fakes as one-faced warriors or other-faced revolted by the same who lead and cunning asking help for defense against the warriors, and as though keeping silence concerning the truth, concerning the real situation. And as Gandhi said, truth never harms a cause which is just, and an error does not become true because it multiplies and spreads, nor the truth becomes error because few see it. But as Menandro said, sometimes truth is revealed even without to be searched. And I add, even if the occult struggle to hide it, because we read in the Bible that there is nothing secret that shall not be made manifest. Luke 8:17. Or, as Lincoln said, you may fool all of the people some of the time, or some of the people all of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. Look a little, the occult dropped bombs over the churches in Gaza. Marvel not, because the occult hate God and fight with God, and the only things they love in some churches are the devilish vessels infiltrated, cunning, hidden among the clergymen and among the hearers to fool the believers, all at highest level, as Prophet Daniel said, abomination of desolation in the holy place, Daniel 12:11, and Lord Christ warned too, Matthew 24:24. And although the occult gang love the religious manipulation become trendy to them, and they replaced relics with sorcerers, totems of the ram, through which they think they fool people to worship the devil. But even if a believer is fooled, if he loves sincere God, God knows his soul, and although the saint whose relics are replaced hidden knows the deceptions, knows he is not guilty, and will help the believer if he wanted sincere to honor the saint and not a totem of the molten image of the devil, the ram. So the devilish struggles of them are useless. The pawn of the occult without borders, using the pretext of those calculated wars and disasters, play with huge sums of money the rich in their winters by plundering various countries, while innocent people die in those calculated bloody theaters in starvation or homeless, and or plundered by them with the cunning pretext of taking refuge, and by making them almost impossible to live in peace at their home, for abandoning their home and wealth and all they have, and the occult to may steal not only public wealth but also private wealth with the pretext of such calculated bloody theaters. And I said public wealth, with the rich some could be helped by countries' officials with such public money, official by state, the needy, the real needy. Because Gandhi said, there are people in the world so hungry that God cannot appear to them except in the form of bread. And while the occult sacrifice innocent people in calculated wars or calculated disasters according to their own interests and diversions, including for hidden restrictive issue laws, restrictions of human rights for their total control, on purpose to make easier to create conditions for the dictatorship of the occult over the world, creating appropriate conditions for starting the pathetic wanted by them global war or the new global order of dictatorship through total control after global war over all the survivors, if any. The occult group play with and divert from public wealth huge sums of money in their own interest, pretexting those calculated wars, those calculated collective disasters, some of them even disguised in accidents or terrorist attacks. And while that, politicians like your former leader, disciple of the ram and traitor, fool people as zealous pawns of the occult to show what a pious they are, and while people die in calculated wars and in calculated disasters, plundered with such pretexts public and private wealth in various countries, while because of their bloody calculated theatre people die in starvation, homeless, sick or wounded, Religious mobsters, devilish vassals infiltrated among the religious hierarchs to fool people, and Pharisee politicians, devilish vassals, disciples of the Ram, having hidden huge accounts of money, made you see now how, satiated and with a full belly, go to speak to such people about God and even to manipulate them to justify the war through faith, all religions, or others to justify other scandals in the benefit of the gang, according to the interest of the occult. I remember world collapses because of global warming. And in Southeast Europe were places where it was in October below -3 degrees Celsius, and in April snowed and people in winter died of cold. That year, because the occult used the systems Surah and Harp with their meteorological weapons, I spoke in other conference details. So, the manipulation is not to fear God, to fear the global warming. Some of them suicided for that. So, the world collapses. Yes, if the world believed the fake and the deceptions of the occult and don't ask God for light to see the huge deceptions of those mobs and the prepared war, the world collapses. But not in the sense that one speaks, but in that sense. If people believe the deceptions and don't ask God for light and help, will collapse only because of their own compromises with the occult and because of allowing to be fooled, serving two masters as God said not to do. We cannot serve God and Mammon, rejecting the help of God who could be done if it was prayer. Remember or find out what St. Paul said. Romans 16:18. Good. For they that are such serve not our Lord Jesus Christ, but their own belly, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. Finished good. And that is valid for all religion, and was predicted even firstly by Buddha, when he said, however many holy words you read, however many you speak, what good will they do if you don't act upon them? Or, as the hearer awkward for the occult Saint Bartholomew Anania, the masters of the lie, who disguise themselves in teachers of meekness and truth, to bring the knaves closer. Remember recently the situation of the old American soldier who deserted in Sejim, North Korea, practically in Korea, only one led by the same occult, thinking that he will live better and escape from persecution,
he had through their thinking that if they are enemies, will receive him gladly. A sad, ridiculous proof that all the leaders of Korea, China, United States, Russia, all are hand in hand and all together fooling people, claiming they will be enemies but wanting all war for setting up the dictatorship of the occult over the survivor and making theater for fooling the common people. So, make America deceived again. But try at last Japan to not be deceived again anymore, and maybe seeing Japan, later America won't be deceived anymore. I'm not judged about that. 3. A Romanian proverb says, where you hit and where it breaks. Or, a song for little children says something like that. A band of a bird. Notice that you hit one and two scream. I don't know exactly all languages how it means, but notice that idea. You hit one and two scream. Paolo Borsellino said, it doesn't matter where you are born, if you fight for the same ideas and believe in the same things. That quote is unfortunately applied zealous in evil by the occult gang without border now, as Emperor Akihito said before to die. In the past conference, even if I did not give name, I spoke about the fact that some Palestinians work with Netanyahu in families, as how they claim they fight for freedom of Palestine. And yes, I repeat that, because they are pawns of the same occult, working together, and in Israel and in Hamas and in many countries and in Japan and in almost all the world, working together in the same mob family and helping the synagogue of Satan spread in the whole world. But I spoke then about one helping directly Netanyahu and his actions. I saw some mob reacting very pathetic about that and trying to divert or to misinterpret what I said. So, to be more clear and about the cases I mean, I spoke about 3 situations, 2 Palestinians acting recently and another local mob from a country in the world working for the same occult, who made illegal things during the scandals of the disease created by occult in the laboratories. And I spoke, they all are a family in the sense used by Italian mafia famiglia, written with G. So the code of Paolo Borsellino applied by his killers, united in evil, the mafia. Coming back, when I said that Putin is godfather of Naruhito, that is for real, not symbolic, and Naruhito is for real, the godson of Putin. Also, when I spoke about the religious disciples of the Ram friend of Naruhito who killed with Kirill with two Bobiara subordinates and with Mob from Vatican, his three own nephews, it was not symbolic. He was their uncle for real, and he killed them in torments. And although I will speak shortly today, time being late, and about another disciple of the Ram, subordinate of him as hierarch, who also killed his own nephew, because that young one wanted for real to follow God, and his uncle for the people following the Ram. But when I spoke something about working together in a family with their loving sons, who sense terrorists who appear and disappear, the pawn of the occult from Israel and from Palestinian people too, hand in hand with all the occult, I wanted to insist in their huge cooperation in the family of the occult, even some of them having functions and claiming they help some people unwanted free. If you are good informed and analyze, we'll see that the occult in the last century used in many state cups diversion with terrorists who appear and disappear, and many rulers belonging to the occult used even terrorist kidnapping deeds against some friends of them, calculated, hidden, and done by terrorists, friends of them, working for the occult. More exactly for his friends. Necessary the actions, those diversions with kidnapping terrorists for publicities in near elections or for diversion to be forgotten bad deeds of such rulers acting for saving the kidnapped in the collective emotion created like that. So terrorist attacks and kidnapping staged and used by the occult in various purposes, including to use them as pretext for giving hidden laws with restrictions against human rights. What I said before coming back, I spoke and about a politician from Palestine, but in the government of other country in the world ruled by the occult, who was involved, that politician, in a state cup like that, and helped the occult to take the power, and after helped the occult through many scandals, diversions, collective emotion to keep the power taken, as I said. And through restrictions and decisions affecting human rights, including while the scandal with the disease created in laboratory, such ones among the ones involved in state cups working for the occult, including working together with Netanyahu for the hidden cunning purposes of the occult gang, for state cups, calculated war and global war wanted by them. I pointed out about one of them whose name I did not give, a part of the occult from that country, working hand in hand with the synagogue of Satan, kept in big functions in that country as reward by the occult group for his actions, helping them to come at power and to keep the power. The most part of such deeds, cunning, hidden, and disguised by criminals, and though some of them declared even by justice as illegal, during the scandal with the disease created by the occult, so his illegal actions, including totally ones against humans' basic rights, having a consequence a huge numbers of deaths and a lot of other death and other bad consequences as plundering private and public works and other consequences impossible to be repaired. I did not speak the name of such ones, who was a friend of him of the occult, working with him to do such criminal appointments. The local one, both of them being appointed and kept after that, despite the claiming as illegal of their dead in big functions. But the last, the local one, being appointed only during the scandal, since then, the scandal of the disease, and keep after that, although his bad deeds were shown. But the first about whom I speak, since a lot of years, kept after many bad deeds, both of them are still kept in functions, including agreed in international deceitful organization and alliance, field of humanoid robots, impersonator and clones with DNA insert from dead, diverted from their initial purpose and for which Emperor Michiko retired Japan from such alliance, even as observer, occurring since then, the deception and for whom they work. And after all those victims, as a part of their illegal action were shown officially, the occult still kept the two in function as rewards for their services and for using them, including through such organizations, not only against the country in which they both did so much evil, cunning, but a lot of evil, but also against the mankind, extending, as you see, the deceitful alliance agree them to extend what they do against the whole mankind. And in the past, during the scandal with the disease, the evil was already extended by one of them, by the first. I will give details saying their dirty reactions and try to stage and to divert my words. The truth disturbs. So, to be not at all misunderstood and misinterpreted, although I did not give a name, I will repeat, pointing out the situation more clear and with some details because of their deception and pathetism, oblige me to do that. Like good Gandhi, the true never damage a cause who is just. So, when I spoke about that, they work from synagogue of Satan hand in hand with Netanyahu and against, although the countries where they are, but claim they help and want good for Palestine. I wanted to be clear that such Palestinian and the occult are family mob sense, as they said, familiar in the language of Italian mafia, without border. And when I spoke including about ones claiming to fight for their good, I spoke exactly about that they claim for fighting for their fellow beings, but working hard and allied with the synagogue of Satan, with Netanyahu, against the country and against the country where they work in the world, against Japan, against the mankind practically, claiming they are Palestinian but working exactly against Palestine and against the mankind as disciple of the ram and pawns of the occult. Betrayed, as Netanyahu betrayed Israel and for all that he is sure, betrayed Palestine. They create disasters, are involved in that in the past for collective emotions at the request of Russia and China's occult, whose occult rulers also act against their own peoples, Russian and Chinese common people too. And coming back to such ones filled the international mass media that they were the good of the people, but spread in many countries products from the Chinese occult not conformed while the scandal of the disease. And speaking about other Palestinians from other countries, that those last claiming they are even sons of some members of organization helping Palestine, such ones claim in the press in the last week that they injure Hamas, they accuse Hamas and the Arabian people for all the evil, for justifying the war of Israel against Israel. Really? And instead to swear the people working for Netanyahu and for the occult member of Hamas who did such horribilities. Because that is the cause. The occult, not an organization or other. Including yesterday, that one did again a declaration in press against Hamas that say that they didn't care about their people, but forgetting to say for whom such ones from Hamas work hidden and generalizing or justifying the war of Netanyahu, pretexting to be war against Hamas, but sacrificing innocent lives with that pretext, as sometimes Pak Jong-chon wanted, at the occult request, to destroy in nuclear attacks United States and Romania with the pretext he was gunning among all the victims to find Biden, who was hiding no stress in Romania with Putin and with their another friend of the occult in a secret place with bunker in Romania. Really? I met then scandal, but in the case repeated all that week, such so-called by themselves, sons of ones who want free for such people made evil to them for one or other to suffer innocent people because one or other are for real guilty or not, to allow and to justify to be dropping bombs on churches, on hospitals, to make people homeless for plundering their wealth, to create chaos, killing children, and not only as they killed usually their human babies sacrificed as disciples of the ram to evil spirits, but also killing children, sick, women, elders, innocent civilians in a war, helped and by such provoking declaration from some claiming to be Palestinian and ones to be good for Palestine, but acting in the benefit of Netanyahu. Like that, the occult group attack and create calculated wars, disaster and all. And coming back to another, the ones in government or along other country who created all of them during the years, and none of them moved him there as reward for giving the power of the country through such friends of him working for the occult and for helping them to keep the power and to pass the baton one another. Such of them deeds were declared, including internationally by justice, illegal, and still he is kept in functions as his friend local, as reward for serving the occult, working, as I said, in a huge family, both with Netanyahu and with his synagogue of Satan, although that one claiming to be Palestinian, but betraying Palestine, betraying and the country who keep in such huge functions. And although, of course, acting bad and against all the country of Europe where he sent devices not conformed and produced by occult of China, not conformed to be used during the scandal with the disease, and a cause of them were affected a lot of people. Despite many of his lies and involving in collective scandals, including calculated disasters made with a huge number of victims, including one with a devilish fast of Halloween in which they invited fooled teenagers, terribly not knowing and not wanting to follow the devil, but the inviters, yes, who fooled them, to become cannon fodder and victims using practices totally immoral and restricted but hidden, and become such ones cannon fodder for collective emotions. Such a zealous author and accomplice for all the crimes and thefts for the groups, including using illegal restrictions, fake statistics, contrary of the official of the institutes of having in charge the statistics, plundering against public wealth, but also private wealth, especially through illegal fines for illegal restrictions, and not only crimes made directly, but having all the whole gang of occult involved in organ traffic and pulling people through diversion and giving, since the disease nowadays, laws affecting the human rights, as example, allowing to the occult to take anyone forcibly with emergency, including awkward, including one's compatible for organs with someone of his colleagues, having the digital evidence of health and all the personal data of people being known and easy to be find the compatible ones, or suffering suddenly an accident and isolated with the pretext of the disease during the hospital, appointing us leadership in the leadership of the hospital and also to the forensic, the same common head for not being supervision, not at all, for real, for not knowing too many what happened there, because if there are two different unities and their heads were mobs, the things were the same, but for not knowing too many what happened there, and for helping one another easier. The victims are isolated, and with the pretext of disease, anyone can be taken, anyone can die, or like that. And the occult group, how not to reward such things? Pretexting the disease, many peoples, including many Japanese living there, were killed like that, with organs stolen and many things like that, since Empress Michiko was alive, and that was a reason for she retired Japan from organizations who allow and not stop such things. To come back to the canon folder made from the rebellious Yong to a devilish past of Halloween, I spoke in the previous conference and I insist. You see now why in many state groups were presented the mass meet with terrorists who appear and disappear exactly having as origin the troubles from childhood with such movies, such feasts, such games made exactly by the occult. Patience in time to act subliminally and use in such situation for managing state gaps. So keep the children, if possible, away from such devilish things. The synagogue of Satan say they are Jews and are not. That is written not by me, but in Revelation 2:9, including some who fool the people speaking in the name of Jews, allied with such ones, so-called enemies as Palestinian, but being hand-in-hand in the same occult and involved in bloody theater, stage scandals, lies, organ traffic with restrictions made millions of victims not only in that country but also in many countries from Europe, being charged by aliens made for the working for the cult to import from China not conform device used for the scandal of the disease. And before the scandal, the disease, when people didn't know what was behind, in the same country for a long he is kept working hand in hand with although we against Palestine, against Netanyahu, with Netanyahu and against the country where he kept in functions, created for tracking the phones and other collective emotions, with a girl of a former tertiary, claimed to be kidnapped by a monster from their gang, the monster being in reality hidden in South Korea, and before he trafficked women for an American unity military, and the girl claimed to be kidnapped and killed being in Italy with his grandfather. No stress. But people exit in the street and claim restrictions and to be tracked themselves, making without realizing what's behind the wish of group. Nothing in the world is not happened without to be allowed by God. Even if the occult consider themselves God, even if the devil and the servants, the evil spirit, try to fool you to believe that they do what they want, they do as they say, we will kill whom he want, we will steal what we want. One of them said those words. They do only what they are allowed, and until they are allowed by God to check and then them and us. And they fight with God. They fool you and are fooled themselves, think they are gods. And they are in the situation warned by St. Paul in 1 Timothy 4, 1, 9 and 13. And as he said, they do worse and worse, but they will see the result. They are allowed to do miseries against each of us only the time and only the limit considered by God necessary for each of us. Because when God allows the trouble, the temptation, the evil to be happening against a believer, God sends the soul and the power for him to resist, so despair not. If a believer wants sincere to follow God, he will receive and the power to resist, to the trouble, to the temptation. And all we have to do is to watch and pray, Matthew 26:41, but is valid for all the religion. As he said, Lord, and also to not to tempt Lord, Matthew 4:17 or Deuteronomy 6:16. If we watch and pray, we won't tempt God. Despair not, exactly as Saint Cyril said from God to us, but to ask God for light. If we ask God for light, we receive the warnings and will be able also to occur the deceptions and not to tempt God if we are warned, not to ignore the warnings, as I said past time with the story concerning the tsunami, so much liked by Empress Michiko and Emperor Akihito. Because, as Gamaliel, the wise Pharisee quoted by St. Luke, said, Acts 5:38-39, said, if this counsel or this work be of man, it will come to naught. But if be of God, ye cannot overthrow it, lest haply ye be found even to fight against God. Finish the quote. We have to pray for keeping vigilance, self-control, and we can say, even as Mother Teresa, the saint of Calcutta, said, I know God will not give me anything I can handle. I just wish that He didn't trust me so much. Finish the quote. But never to forget what said St. John Chrysostom: those who fight with the evil keep peace with God. Lord Christ did not accept it to be crucified to abandon the ones who follow Him in the hands of the occult group. As St. Paul said, Romans 11:2, God hath not cast away His people which He foreknew. Finish the quote. But we shall watch and pray, because the occult gang and his deception covered the world, and they work with the devil named in all religion the cunning. If you look as example only at the cunning calls and fakes and deceptions only happened nowadays in Japan, in Israel, in Ukraine, in and through Korea. Because in the last case, all the world are fooled by their pawns of the occult, who use only the deception with two-face for starting cunning the global war, Jubalan Agma, and religion manipulation. God said through Saint Sylvan to keep our mind in health and despair not. He is able to save us, even like that. But to be realized and to realize that all we see is a result of all our sins, of our compromises, serving two masters, God and Mammon, although God said not to do that, of our lack of faith or of our superficial faith, to ask Him for light and to speak with Him. And in the case of the Christian, the prayer of Jesus, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, and praying Most Holy Theotokos to have mercy on us. Such prayers, said internally in mind and heart, are very helpful, giving self-control, help and light. You may speak with God always in your heart and in your mind, as He asked Himself, in spirit and in truth. John 4:24. If the throne, as they did with me many times, block the communication, they cannot block your personal communication with your Creator, with God who created you and loves you and don't want the destruction of the mankind. Personally, I give you an example. When I take a toy of the baby from the floor to put it at its place, I say in my mind, Lord or God, consider that above for you. Thank you for taking care of me. I pray to give me light and to forgive my sins like that. When I do something considered important, I say in my mind, Lord, if your will is to do that, please help me to do it. And if He helps me, I give thanks in that moment. But if I'm wrong, please stop me. If I have to take a difficult decision, I say, God, give me light, please. And if I am already wrong, please stop the errors as you know. If I have to go in a place and I don't know to choose what itinerary to follow that day, I say, Lord, please drive me there. How to go, show me the way. Please show me the good way today among all possibility from my first thought. If I go shopping, I say, Lord, please make me find what you consider to be useful for me today, what I really need. I give such example. Maybe some of them are helpful for some of you. Essential is don't lose your faith. See so many abominations of desolation sitting in some holy places of all religions. We all were warned by God about those times, and God is not guilty. Even He warned us about those times when will be elected the ones who want sincere to follow Him or not, and the one who select to follow when they will to the evil. And even the atheists, as Saint Sylvan said, if they ask God for light, promising sincere, if they receive light and help, will follow Him, will see the light and the help. The devil is extremely cunning, as his servants of the occult are now. The devil has a huge number of years of experience, and we have only our age, 50, 60, 70, or even if some are younger, a little. And as in the case when Saint Sylvan wanted to pray before an icon and the devil come and sit between the icon and the saint, so that the saint to bow before him, to be like the saint, worship him, not honoring the icons in prayer, but God saw and listened the sincere prayer of the saint, exactly like that, when the devilish vassal disciples of the Ram religious mob infiltrated among clergymen and hierarchs, as their friends, Naruhito and Yong give the politicians helped them. The devilish vassal one working for Russia's occult, who replaced holy relics with totems of the ram and of sorcerers. Exactly like that, God and the saint worshipped, even deceived in deceptions, know the soul of a believer, know if that one is deceived, but one sincere to follow God, and such one will be helped anyway by the saint and by God, if he doesn't know that the holy relics are replaced or not, and one still wants sincere to honor the saint. And that's why, although Saint Sylvan said that the atheist asked God for light and promised if he received light, he will follow God, they will be helped for sure. Now, I will explain another prove to be enlightened how cunning is the devil, how cunning can be the member of the occult working in religion, taking example from Italian mafia. Saint Silouan said us to ask God for light, not to ask Russia for light or the occult for light. Coming back to the Italian mafia, Carlo Alberto dalla Chiesa, the general, said, quote, "When there's a mob crime, the first crown to arrive is that of the one who ordered the murder." Finish the quote. What I mean now with that quote, a subordinate of the religious mob hierarchy, friend with Naruhito, being disciple of the Ram too, belonging to the same occult, from the same country with that one friend with Naruhito where he did many crimes, and with the other friends of them, the self-claimed global central divinity vassals, who give Naruhito the charge of the church to escape the police sent by Emperor Akihito after him to stop the crimes. In the same times, when his friends, the hierarch, killed his nephew in the past, his 3 own nephew, his subordinate hierarch, 2, disciple of the Ram, 2, from the same country, 2, but surrounded abroad with many other countries surrounded for the fate of that country, killed too his own nephew, because that Yong, his nephew, wanted in that case at the beginning for real to follow God, and even wanted to marry my own daughter, and his uncle, the hierarch, surrounded to many countries from Europe, surrounded by his boss to lead the faith from that church over those countries, wanted to manipulate through religion, wanted him to belong to the disciple of the Ram, to the occult, and not to serve God sincerely. Seeing that the Yong wanted sincerely to follow God, he staged a mob accident and killed the Yong, his own nephew, and after, exactly as the General dalla Chiesa said, first crown to arrive is of the one who ordered the murder, made for his nephew a public monument funeral, pretending how sad he is. At the beginning, I had not such information who killed the Yong, and I remember we even asked him without to know to help us to find where Kirill and his boss, then uncle of victims still alive, tortured the 2 Yong's nephew of him for saving him, tried to save the nephew of the hierarch, being warned through message by the Russian soldier who wrote us. And of course, he did not help us to save neither the nephew of the hierarch nor other, because he was like his boss. And short time after that, all of them were killed by his boss, including the Russian soldier, and accomplice of those tortures, as I said, and the Russian soldier wrote those, were the two heroes, one the sorcerer Haydn and the other the devilish vassals claimed dead in that country and after went in Japan to fool you about some Russian monk who said him found Japan in dark. I spoke in the past conference, and of course Kirill, the patron of all and big helper of his uncle and of Naruhito too, the hero whose nephew was killed by that other one, but that other one raised a monument for him. Maybe warned exactly him, Kirill, that we try to save the nephew of his boss. But when I found out the cunning crime and deception concerning his own nephew of that cunning hero, disciple of the Ram too, fooling believers, a lot of them in his surrounded countries, God allowed them to come invited by a friend of him, exactly invited in a church on a feast where I entered first in my life in that church, then through God's wise work, exactly then. And I saw him keeping there the religious service. Then I went and looking right at him, I gave him an hecatomb to mention his own nephew killed by him and the true nephew of his boss killed by his friends, their uncle. Useless to say how angry he became, but could not say anything because, for not occurring the crowd being there, he wanted to manipulate. So don't be fooled through religious manipulation. Look whom they are. Better ask God for light. And even the atheists, if they ask God for light and are sincere, will receive. I wish to all wisdom, light and peace. Come again to vote. Vote with your heart. And 10 minutes after the conference ends, before to go to election, pray each of you to be the last time allowed by God to be full Japanese people at elections and also in politics and betrayed. To pray also for Japan's freedom, for preserving your democratic rights, for peace, for truth, for stopping the deception who covered the world, for stopping the betrayal in Japan especially and also in the world, for stopping the war, calculated or not. I will end again with the Japanese proverbs and quotes of Gandhi. Japanese proverbs better to die than to live in shame. Do not drink from the fountain of thieves, even if your lips are thirsty. And now Mahatma Gandhi. No one can ride on the back of a man unless he's bent. Your tomorrow depends entirely on what you do today. Be the change you want to see in the world. Man is the sum of his action. And God as truth have been for me a treasure beyond price. May He be so to every one of us. And even a single lamp dispels the deepest darkness. I say, may Japan, helped and enlightened by God through your prayers, to be that light given from God by God and through God for all the world. And I recommend you 10 minutes after, and let's pray for it, each of us, but together. For Japan, for truth, for democracy, for freedom, for peace, for faith. To all, in the name of Japan, Hiva, peace. And I think